If you're setting up a meeting room and you need a screen that just works, you probably worry about spending a lot on something that looks great on paper, but ends up being a headache to live with. You've probably heard the hype about massive 4K panels, but you also know the nightmare of glare, awkward mounting, and a speaker system that sounds like a tin can. You want a piece of equipment that will stay put, stay clear, and stay useful day after day, without draining the budget on features you'll never use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at conference room displays, the first thing I asked myself was how the screen would behave in a typical office that isn't a dark theater. Most meeting rooms have fluorescent lighting, windows, and a few people sitting at different angles. That's where the Dell 55-inch 4K monitor starts to make sense. Its anti-glare coating actually does something you can notice right away. The picture stays readable even when the blinds are up and the sun is spilling across the wall. I tested it with a laptop running a PowerPoint deck, and the text stayed crisp without any washed-out patches that you sometimes see on glossy panels. The next practical concern is audio. A lot of monitors rely on external soundbars or separate conference room speakers, which adds cables and another piece of equipment to hide. Dell built two 10-watt speakers right into the bezel. They are not going to replace a dedicated PA system for a 30-person room, but for a typical 6 to 8-person huddle they are surprisingly adequate. I played a short video clip with background music and the dialogue was clear enough that people at the back didn't have to strain. The volume knob is conveniently located on the side, so you can tweak it without having to reach behind the screen. Security is another hidden pain point. Many IT departments have run into trouble when a wall-mounted display gets stolen or tampered with. Dell added a security lock and a cable lock slot, which means you can fasten a Kensington lock to the monitor and then secure the lock to the wall bracket. I've seen it in a few office installations where the lock is already attached, and it gives a sense of confidence that the expensive glass isn't an easy target for a quick grab and run. Viewing angle matters more than you might think. In a conference room, people sit on both sides of the table, sometimes even across the room. The Dell panel uses a wide viewing and angle panel, so the colors and contrast stay consistent whether you're sitting right in front or off to the side. During a test call with 3 participants spread out, nobody complained about washed-out colors or a need to turn their heads unnaturally. That consistency helps keep the meeting flowing, especially when you're sharing a spreadsheet or a design mock-up that relies on accurate color. Now, who should actually buy this? If you run a small to medium business, a startup, or a branch office that needs a reliable, all-in-one display for regular video calls, presentations, and occasional content sharing, the Dell 55-inch hits a sweet spot. The price point is lower than many enterprise-grade 55-inch panels that require a separate speaker system and a pricey mounting kit. You get 4K resolution for sharp detail, built-in speakers that cover basic audio needs, and the lock features that keep IT happy, all in one package. On the other hand, if your conference room regularly hosts 15-plus attendees, or you need a truly cinematic experience for high-budget client pitches, you might feel the built-in audio falls short and you'll likely want a larger screen, or a dedicated sound solution. Also, if you already have a high-end audio system and you're just looking for a display, you might end up paying for speakers you'll never use. In those cases, a monitor that focuses purely on picture quality without the built-in audio could be a better value. A practical downside that showed up during my hands-on test was the stand. Dell ships the 55-inch with a wall mount kit that's fairly straightforward, but the bracket isn't as robust as some premium VESA mounts you see on higher-priced models. If you plan to tilt the screen frequently, you might notice a slight wobble after a few weeks of heavy use. It's not a deal-breaker for most, but it's something to keep in mind if your room layout changes often. Another point to consider is the firmware update process. Dell provides a web portal for updating the monitor's firmware, and the interface is simple, but you do need a separate USB stick or a network connection to push the update. That means a one-time setup step for IT, rather than a fully automatic over-the-air update. In most office environments that's a minor inconvenience, but it's worth noting if you're looking